Thank you. Welcome today to this extraordinary meeting of the council, which will be voting on whether to retain or disestablish the Whangarei ward. Can I have any apologies? I don't think we've got any, so that's done. Confirmation of agenda. Can I have Councillor Naya, seconder, please? Councillor Howard. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Conflict of interest. Any conflicts of interest to declare? No, there's not. Okay, so we'll move to the public forum. CE Maris has outlaid clearly how this process works. I will not be taking questions today because we have a big day to get through, and we've allowed quite a number of speakers. So the first speaker is Reno Skipper, the chair of Te Uri o Hole Settlement Trust.
He's outside still.
We go. To give us a couple of minutes. Yeah.
Patrick is follows him. He's also outside.
And take them. Take them into. He's here. Just got what we see.
There is one. Is he not coming? We jump to another speaker.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, look, while we wait for our speakers to turn up, we took them in the order that they were received. I am aware that we have some speakers here now. So my suggestion would be to, I believe Reno and Widow Kino is out in the audience. We have the next speaker, John Bain, and we can bring these other speakers in when they're ready. Or we can just wait. I mean now.
He's coming now. Okay, we'll wait. Oh, there it is. Just so everybody knows, we do have a councillor Lambeth online from Dargaville.
Hi, Gordon.
Seems like I'm not.
Okay.
I'll see it. Oh. Just.
Welcome, Skipper. Opportunity at the public forum. 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Tēnei au ka tūri o manu ko te aitanga atiki. He matakahi he mānuku he kahika. Ka humai te kohanga tapu a te wharekura o manu kapu i te wharekura o ngā tupuna e tū mai nei. Tēnei au, ho atu nei, ho kai a wai whanāringa, hikoia te whetu, hikoia te marama, ki te whai au, ki te ao marama, turuturu e rangi, turuturu e papa tūturu o whiti whakamaua, kia tīna, hui e, kai ki e. Tēnā tātou. Probably a little bit easier for me to stand if that's all right. Yeah. Look, I'd first like to start off, e mihi ana kia tātou e hu mai nei, acknowledge those that are present and that are listening to the kōrero today. I'm going to start with a bit of a history lesson. As a teacher, I suppose this is where the angle that I'm going to go in this morning. And as a respect for my tupuna, starting with Arama Karaka, starting with Paikia Te Hekua, there's other tupuna that can be mentioned, Parore Te Awha. These tupuna set the foundation of the Kaipara. Now, the foundation that they gave was as the settlers, the first settlers that were coming here, the Albert Landers, they relied on the manaakitanga, the hospitality of these tupuna. You'll see these stories in the Mangawhai Museum. They're represented here in this town here as well. And from o tamatea, the tupuna that provided this aroha and this support, it has been noted that without the hospitality of these ancestors, as the first settlers came, they would not have survived. They came into a country with no food, no support, no understanding of how to work the land. And that was given with love. And so that's the foundations of what we speak about today. It was a mutual partnership. And it was relied upon by the first settlers so that they could survive. That's the foundation of who we are. Now, I just want to set this mark down. This speech here today, this 5-minute kōrero today, is not consultation. Actually, what this is to invite you to come speak with us. I'm only a member of Te Uri Ahau, but there's other hapu and other iwi that represent this area that have not had a voice today. We encourage you to come and speak with us. That is the benchmark of rangatira to rangatira, of your position as a mayor and your responsibility, and our responsibility as community and iwi leaders. To come together and talk about it. If I had my opportunity, my 5 minutes would be spent on getting a cup of tea ready for you and sitting down and having a kōrero like we've done before. We've had conversations together and we've never shied away from sitting down and talking about it. This cannot be done in 5 minutes. This is not what consultation is. This is not what working together is. Even as a teacher, as my job is to grow future leaders, this is not how I talk to my students. I don't stand in front of my students and tell them what my belief is. I open up that space so that we can have a good dialogue, and through that dialogue and that conversation with our tamariki, with our students at school, it gives them a better understanding of what the decisions are best for them. I think we've got to be really concerned about the cost of what this looks like. It seems that it's more expensive to go through a review process than it is to put it to the people. 20 cents per person. As a teacher and teaching maths to our future tamariki, it doesn't mean that this is a very responsible decision. And finally, Mr. Mayor, I acknowledge, in reading and reflecting on what you've given in the past, is that you have asked for consultation. You have asked for it to go to the people. You have asked for dialogue when this decision came in before. Why are we not holding ourselves to the same standard as we did before? So I urge you, come to us. Talk to Te Uri Ahau. Talk to Te Roroa. talk to the different hapu of our area, talk to Ngāti Whātua, talk to us, and let's come to a decision together. People together. This is not unity. This is dividing our people. Let's bring us together. So I encourage you, as always, my phone is always open. Come, have a kōrero with us, and I'd appreciate it. And I know that's the type of person that you are as well. Let's make the decision on what's best for the kaipara, not for the individuals that sit around this table. I know that when we talked about it before, we've talked about the importance of communication. We've talked about the importance of making sure we're making good financial decisions. We've talked about what's important for the people. This is not consultation.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, very nice, Skipper. Next on our list is Whangarei Kino, known as Utariri Wa Utu.
Just give us a couple of minutes, Mr Mayor, to get Widow in.
Chess pieces from. The broken chess pieces are out.
Yes.
Welcome, Kaipara. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Tihei Mōreora, I was brought up in racism, knowing it, feeling it, enduring it, and unless one has actually experienced racism personally, it is impossible to try and explain what it's like. It would be like trying to explain to someone what chocolate tastes like. I could show them a chocolate, they could feel it, even smell it, but until they actually tasted it for themselves, they would never understand what chocolate truly is. The same with racism. So for myself, my experiences of the racism I have seen perpetrated upon my Māori people, heard or told to me by them, and which I have personally experienced at the hands of Pākehā and the Pākehā system, is very hard to articulate to others, especially those Pākehā who believe in that system and seek to maintain its status quo here in Aotearoa and on this day here in the Kaipara. But I will try. My first conscious memory of racism was when I heard a Pākehā call my dad a blackie. Not to his face, as he was a big man, but behind his back. She didn't know that I heard it, but I did. And even to this day, I feel ashamed that I did not stand up for him. But I was only 6, so that can be understood. Then on one when I used to hear about the great land grab, how my people were basically made destitute when all their lands, resources and assets were stolen by the Pākehā settlers. And the bitter irony is, these are the same settlers who, when they first arrived in the Kaipara, were fed by my iwi, without which they would have literally starved to death for the first couple of winters, literally. And you know what? If I could go back in time, I would say to my iwi, do not feed them. And there are numerous other racist experiences. My father having to sit at the back of a picture theatre. My grandmother being beaten for speaking Māori at school. My kaumātua who served valiantly in the Māori battalion for this country, and when they came back, were treated as second-class citizens and were not even allowed to drink in the pubs or have their hair cut at the Pākehā barbers. And a Pākehā priest saying to me, oh, you're not Māori, you're too fair. A Pākehā judges saying to me, shut up, you can't speak Māori in here, te mea, te mea, te mea. And that is what brings us all here today, racism. For the Kaipara Māori ward seat to be disestablished And those who are seeking to disestablish the Māori ward seat are doing so under the pretext of democracy, equality and so-called fairness. But behind this facade, which is what it is the very essence of racism, of racist white supremacy, of power and control. It's basically takahia disrespecting the mana of the tangata whenua of Kaipara, the mana of our Māori ward candidate Ia Pera Paniora, the mana of our Ngāti Whātua o Kaipara, of Te Roroa, Te Uriahau, the Iwi, the mana of our kaumātua, our queer, our tamariki and our mokopuna. So if you decide today to take away our Māori ward seat, then by taking this action, you are showing nothing but utter contempt and disdain and disrespect to all of us as tangata whenua here in the Kaipara. I will conclude with the words of the civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr., who I said, and I quote, "I submit to you that if a person has not discovered a cause they're prepared to sacrifice their lives for, even to the point of death, then they are not fit to live." And rest assured, there are many of us Māori who are prepared to make such a sacrifice. This racist regime now in power, and their tūpapa Kuri Kino, Jones, Seymour and Peters, all of whom are a disgrace to Māoridom, is instigating a relentless attack on tangata whenua with the most racist policies this country has ever known since the Māori land wars. Māori Health Authority gone. Matariki funding cut. Gang laws back down aimed at Māori. Boot camps aimed at Māori. Te mea, te mea, te mea. So for us as Māori, we're living in very dangerous and disturbing times. But know this, if the racist regime does renege and decides to back Seymour's Te Tiriti o Waikawi principles, that will be a fine red line in the sand for Māoridom. Remember that, tēnā koutou, tēnā no tātou katoa.
Kia ora.
Thank you. Next on our list to speak is John Baines, Democracy Northland.
Good morning, worship, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. To follow after two very eloquent speakers on one side of the table, I'm now here to talk for everybody because I believe in democracy. Democracy Northland is one organisation that believes that everybody should have an equal vote. Equal. That means that anybody who wishes to stand for a body, such as a president, for government office or for any board whatsoever, they should walk into that organisation with the same voting paper as the next person. We don't have, and Democracy Northland doesn't have a split between colour, whatever. We don't have any difference that we wish to put forward. All we want to make sure is that everybody has an equal opportunity to get into whatever board, whatever industry that they want to. I've been involved with councils and boards for a long time, and I've set aside various people of various nationalities. Most of those people have had one wish, and that is to do the best for the board that they sit on, just like the councillors around the table here, that they are sitting there for every person. In fact, they all took an oath before they sat at the table to represent every person in the council boundaries. And for that, I thank you, and I think that you've all done a tremendous job to try and hold that up. But the big thing is to preserve democracy. If we look around the world, we can look at Russia, North Korea, we can have a look at Bangladesh last night. 300 people died trying to fight to maintain a democratic process within the boundaries of their country. The worst thing about autocracy is that we have an overlying wish for one or two people or a group of people to rule the whole thing. No vote, no opportunity for anyone to stand up and be part of that organisation to make a change which would be possibly for the better, possibly not. But if they don't make the decision that is up for that particular organisation, we have a democratic process which is happening next October, I believe, for the council. And there'll be an election, and those people who didn't perform on the council can be removed by other people standing in their organisation. If we destroy that and start breaking down the council into groups of people, where do we put women? Where do we put all the other people? Maybe a couple of seats for a Catholic priest, or whatever you like. But you cannot break down the democratic process that gives equal votes for all the people in the electorate. For me, I've sat on boards, as I said a moment ago. One or two of the people that I sat next to coached me through the first month of sitting at a strange table, helped me through, and made sure that I was able to carry out the task that I had put my name forward to do, just like you have. But at the same time, we all worked for the one aim, and that was to get to the top of what we could achieve and make sure that the decisions that we made were for everyone. And I believe that this way of council and election is the only way that is fair. If you look at Winston Churchill, he said democracy is not fair, but there's no other organised system that's better. You take what you've got and then you make it work. And I believe that's what you should do today. Use the democratic process to ensure that all these people who wish to stand at the next election are able to, with the same vote that goes in the box as everybody else. And that's the wish of Democracy Northland. Thank you, Mr.
We have our next speaker, who is Frank, also from Democracy Northland. He wants to address the history of the referendum on council representation and Maori seats.
Worship, councillors, thank you for the opportunity to on this very. I was one of the team of people that gathered signatures in 2021. In fact, there were 3 referendums or 3 petitions running at the time for 3 councils, including Kaipara. In fact, Kaipara was the, if you like, we gave the most support from Kaipara. 8.8% of those registered on the electoral roll demanded at the time. Now, just to put that in perspective, given the turnout, voter turnout is less than 50%, 8.8% of those on the registered roll is very significant. In other words, 1 in 5 of the voters in the electorate wanted to have their say at the time. They were denied, but they wanted to have their say, and they wanted to have their say because this issue is very important to them, and it's an issue that the previous council denied them the right to have a say. They wanted to have a say, and that right was taken away from them. We actually met thousands.
Those down, please. Excuse me, Frank, can you put those down? The sun's in my eyes and there's too much light. Can you intervene in this, please? Hang on, Frank. You're attempting to drown out from the. Yeah, look, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. This is stopped. Thank you.
So, but I get to stand up and. All right, she's up here. All right, she's. Now, find your mind. Okay, that's another one.
Spare, we've just got a couple of mechanisms in the toilet, so,
Our ancestors on
Noisy one.
public meetings, what?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
So. It's a miracle.
that one there.
Oh, yeah. Well, you continue, Frank. Councillor Paniora, I'm giving you a warning. If you repeat your disorderly behaviour, I'll ask you to leave the meeting. Mr Newman, carry on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just grab a glass of water, everyone.
Just listening to the people disorderly behaviour.
I will not tolerate disorderly behaviour.
Is,
Under section 20.4 of the standing orders, if you continue to be disorderly, I will have you removed from the meeting. Thank you, Frank Newman. You can continue.
Thank you. I'll try to speak up. I haven't got a loud voice, but I'll shout.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll start from the beginning. Look, I was one of the team of people that gathered signatures in 2021 when this issue came up. Actually, the community was very concerned about it. We gathered signatures for three councils in the region. And in total, we gathered over 15,000 signatures. The most response we had was from the Kaipara ward. 8% of people registered on the electoral roll signed the petition. They wanted to have their say. 8.8% is significant given your voter turnout is less than 50%. So I think it's fair to say that 1 in 5 voters actually signed the petition to have their say in 2021. That voice was denied by Nanaia Mahuta, who retrospectively enacted legislation that denied us the right to have our say. And that was after our petition was validated. Clearly, Mahuta realised the mood of the community, and that mood was for a big no against Maori wards. In my view, I would say 80% of the people we spoke to, 80% of the community were saying no to community wards, to Maori wards. And there's 4 reasons why they did so, in my view. The reasons they gave us that we went door to door in Dargaville, the businesses. We went to the stalls in Mangawai here on a regular basis, and we literally spoke to thousands of people about this issue. And a lot of you councillors know exactly what I'm saying, because you too also gained that feedback. And that there were 4 points in that feedback. The first was the community wants to be united by the things we have in common, not divided by our differences. They want to be united by the things that we have in common, not divided by our differences. The second thing is they believe in democracy, and they believe democracy is one person, one vote, all votes equal, and all voices are respected in a democracy. The third reason was they believe councillors should represent the entire community and not just a segment of it. And indeed, that is confirmed in the declaration all you councillors have to make at the start of your term. And the fourth reason why they believe they didn't, why they needed to have a say is because they don't actually believe we need Māori wards. And why? Because they believe Maori can themselves, on their own merits, win positions on council. They don't have to be treated like special needs individuals. They have got their own abilities and can succeed on their own merits. And we actually can see that because that's borne out in statistics. As of today, 22% of elected representatives associate of Maori ancestry. 2019, that percentage was 18%. In other words, they are more than represented on a population proportionate basis on councils. And I think it's quite clear, and even Councillor Paniora said just 2 days ago to my in an interview that she believes she will win a general at next year's election. I believe she will win. Her words were she has a very good chance of being elected in a general seat. The obvious question is, so why do you need a Māori ward? You don't, because you indeed are likely to win a general seat next year. And not only will you be empowered to speak for sorry, I've got the floor.
It's about a minute.
I have, right, please. You've had one warning. I'm giving you another. He is addressing you. You're not to respond. He is respectfully making his presentation. You will please be quiet.
So, Councillor Paniora, I believe, in fact,
Points of order, he's addressing me again.
No point of order. It is a
Points of order.
You will be quiet or you will remove yourself from the meeting. Make up your mind. I am tired of giving you the warnings. Under the standing orders, you will be quiet, please, or I'll ask you to leave. Continue, please, Mr.
I believe it would be a great thing if Councillor Paniora was indeed re-elected under a general seat next year, because not only will she have a mandate to speak for Māori, but she will have a mandate to speak for everyone in the community, because she can indeed say that she represents them.
I will speak for Māori.
Okay, I'm going to adjourn. Would you please remove yourself from the meeting? You keep interrupting. You have not.
Give a time frame.
Which I've almost
Continue.
finished, so I can continue. So as I say, I believe you would actually be empowered by having a greater mandate than you have already. So finally, I really ask that councillors here just put things right. Respect the wish of the community as they spoke in 2021 and bring the community together so we don't have racial differences in our electoral system. And I ask you also to honour the promises that you made to the electorate when you got elected for this current term. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Frank Newman. Okay, next on our list. This is Libby Jones, who would like to speak regarding the Maori ward.
Where am I looking?
You might have to speak up.
Kia ora and good morning. Thanks for the opportunity. I am Libby Jones and I live on a farm near Paparoa, central ward of Kaipara District Council. I'm Māori who also feels strongly about this issue. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Have you got a microphone?
No.
I'm going to start again. Kia ora and good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you in this public forum. I am Libby Jones and I live on a farm near Paparoa in the central ward of Kaipara District Council. I am a non-Māori who also feels strongly about this issue. I'm asking you, as the decision makers for our district, to retain Moana Nui Māori ward for Kaipara District Council. I understand that this would require a poll at the 2025 elections on whether to keep the ward beyond that election. The aim of Māori wards is to ensure that Māori are represented in local government decision-making. Just as rural wards guarantee that the concerns of rural communities are heard around the council table, Māori wards ensure Māori voices and perspectives are part of local decision-making. I am glad that our rural central ward exists because we rural village communities get to choose our own candidates to bring our needs and interests to the council table. And that seems a fair and just way for council to operate as a civil body, provide a representation and voice. The Government Minister, Simeon Brown, in changing this legislation to enable communities to decide on Māori wards, clearly said this: today is a great day for local democracy. Local democracy that listens to its communities and enables them to decide how they are represented at a local level. By passing this bill, our government is restoring the right of local communities to determine whether to introduce Māori wards. In his speech, he reiterated several times that any decision to establish or disestablish Māori ward is one that remains with local officials. The point of that change was not for the elected members to make the decision, even though I acknowledge that it has been included as an option. Already, 2 of our 4 Northland councils, who all have Māori wards, agreed to let voters decide. Kaipara needs to do the same. Just because you can disestablish a Māori ward doesn't should do it. Cost of the options is another valid consideration. According to the staff report, disestablishing the Māori ward will cost an estimated 5 times more than retaining it. What would we have to forego in the current budget for that to be able to happen? We must have Māori as part of the decision-making for this. Māori have not traditionally engaged in local government, and finally, the Māori wards allowed them to see it as a worthwhile pursuit. In reviewing these options for today's decision-making, Māori have not been consulted. This is a decision that clearly impacts significantly on them, as you can see here today. It is wrong not to consult those who this will ultimately affect the most. Mr. Mayor, you have publicly stated your preference in scrapping Māori wards, and I'm unsure I can change your mind, but I am giving it my best shot. I appreciate the opportunity to address all the other elected members. I have been a Kaipara District Councillor not so long ago, and I remember the strategic politics that occur. I have sat in chambers feeling under pressure to support a view that I didn't really agree with. It didn't seem quite right, or I didn't fully understand implications. I'm asking you as elected members to vote as your conscience determines. Channel your empathy who this will ultimately affect. As elected members, you serve the whole district, not just a few. With a vote to retain the ward, you will be seen in a better light across our district and across New Zealand. Aren't you sick of having our council in the news for all the wrong reasons? I know I am. I agree that this decision, I argue that this decision impacts on all of us. I want to live in a district where I feel proud that we are inclusive, fair, and show respect and dignity to others. This decision is a question of fairness, not equality. Just listen to the difference here. Equality has to do with sameness. Treating everyone the same means that some people will gain more than others due to their previous advantage. Fair is different. Fair means everybody gets what they need based on visible gaps in opportunity. As I said, many Māori have not had the opportunity to be elected members or to be voted in by the majority who are non-Māori. None of us like to feel we have been treated unfairly, whereas simply not getting the same, having the same is not such a big deal. In summary, I'm asking you to be fair and just and vote for option 1, retaining Moana Nui Māori ward for Kaipara District Council. Thank you for your time. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa.
Next on our list is Luke Williamson.
Marie, ko Luke Williamson tōku ingoa. Good morning, Luke Williamson. Ki te iwi kaiwa. I'd like to acknowledge all of the iwi who are here today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to come to speak. Thank you to the council for allowing me to speak. It embarrasses me slightly to be having to shout over the top of beautiful waiata and express such passion, but I will listen to this. Forgive me for reading this because I want to be careful with my words. Also, I don't know which way all of you intend to vote, so I apologise also for addressing my comments to you as a generic group. The decision for this extraordinary meeting so quickly after the legislation passed in Parliament shows premeditation and a disappointing disregard for the rights of all of our community. You don't need to do this. You're choosing to do this. You have the legal right, but do you have the moral right to do this? We are in power as individuals, not as responsible representatives of your electorate. The haste with which you attempt to remove the Māori ward betrays that petulance and vendetta. Are you not better than that? The Māori ward was created by council without public consultation, and now you wish to remove it without public consultation. And I'm aware of the irony and perhaps the hypocrisy of me standing here and begging for time for consultation and for those sorts of things. But not all descended to the point of revenge voting. Whether one agrees with the process or not, the vote to establish a Māori ward was one of inclusion and creation, whereas a vote to disestablish it is moving destruction and exclusivity. The first invited people in, second shuts them out. To delete the Māori ward at such short notice and without public consultation is a betrayal of your responsibilities to represent your community. I think you can guess the wishes of the people, but you actually have no idea of the range and the depth of feelings. You can obviously hear some of the depth of feelings. This proposal shows enormous disrespect to Councillor Paniora, who is a hard-working member of council, and it shows enormous disrespect to the Māori community of Kaipara. It also shows disrespect to any voter in the Kaipara region, like myself, like Lily. Thank you, Lily. I really loved your speech. People who actually appreciate the value and the input of Māori to our community and council workings, and we're just happy Pākehā in our district. Those of you who vote in favour of this proposal are telling Ms Paniora she's not worthy of her position on council. You don't have the value, and you don't value the large and vibrant community she represents. You don't have authority or mana enough to do that, and you should be strongly questioning your morals and imperatives if you do rush into supporting this proposal. I don't understand why you're so terrified of something that only enriches our community and our council. By doing this, you reinforce and greatly exacerbate the alienation and suspicion that exists between the Māori community and council, as we're experiencing today. Why not try tolerance? Why not try inclusion? Why not go for aroha, humility, respect? Even if those of you intending to vote in favour of this proposal are so set in your ways that you have no wish to compromise or engage, kia ora reno, engage, at least leave space for the rest of us in the district who would like that opportunity to be able to engage with the rest of the community, to have that opportunity to discuss it. I repeat, you do not need to do this, you're choosing to do this. I'm pleading with you to reject the proposal to disestablish the Māori ward. There's absolutely no need to rush into this today. The Kaipara District Council loses nothing by retaining the Māori ward until the next election. It loses nothing but gains much. And if you vote to disestablish the Māori ward today, you're trampling on the right of the community to consider this dilemma and decide for themselves. Your haste and behaviour possibly shame us in front of our local community and the rest of New Zealand. Ngā mihi nui.
Last on our list is Linda Allen. Welcome, Linda.
Kia ora tātou. Mr Mayor, councillors, thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you today. I appreciate your time. I was born and raised in the rohe of Otahu, in a small fishing community called Karitani, which is probably what the hospitals and nursing care pioneered in that community. A 70-year-old child, roaming free on the shores of Karitani, had the opportunity to spend time with an elderly gentleman who was the first baby born in Karitani Hospital. He walked the floor every day and would sit to rest and tell stories to the children gathered around. So my roots in Aotearoa run deep. My family have been in Aotearoa since the 1830s. My grandchildren are the 8th generation of to be born in this country. So I just want you to understand where I'm coming from when I speak to you. I'm not a speaker. I'm not one of your hui hoppers. I'm one of those people behind the scenes who normally rolls their sleeves up and gets stuck in and gets the work done. I work hard in my local, not particularly effectively, in my local community, trying to build community sustainability and resilience, trying to remediate the whenua and the moana, that's it, yeah. So that's where I come from, who I am. In my work, I'm a data scientist, don't be scared, and a statistician. I've spent my long career providing the best informed advice to the powerful decision makers so that they can make good decisions. And I continue to be committed to the importance of informed decision making. And that's why I've challenged myself to come here, stand up and talk to you today. I deal in facts. I love numbers. Numbers are magic. They work for me. And normally I do research based as a word. It's because I am a qualified social science researcher, not someone who went to YouTube and found out some mysterious bits and pieces. So when I talk, I bring all that depth of my career, who I am, where I come from, to the table. Now, I went to Local Government New Zealand to find out what you're supposed to be doing for me as a ratepayer. And they say that councils exist to enable democratic decision-making by and for communities. And to me, that is the most important thing. In the words of one of my favourite movies, people use the word democracy, and I don't think what that word means is, you know, I don't think that word means what you think it means. So in a democracy in New Zealand, you know, in central government, we have proportional representation. And as you know, in a democracy, we expect that this blunt instrument will allow our population to be represented in the proportion that they exist. So here we go to some stats. Population stats and projections. So at the moment, across the country, probably know this, that's 10% of the population of Māori. That varies enormously from area to area and district to district. So Kaipara, as you know, is already up around 27% Māori. And the population projections have us heading up towards 30% within the next 20 years. So somewhere between a quarter and a third of the population of this district are Māori and are going to be Māori. Now, we look to the past to learn so that we can make a better future for ourselves. In a world of proportional representation, common sense dictates that we have Māori representation that's proportional to the Māori population, which means that instead of abolishing the one ward we have, we ought to really be considering establishing 3 Māori ward seats. So that's based on the facts. That's where I'm coming from. Now, I had some other things to say. Yes, I keep saying those. I'm not very good at this. I must apologise. Yeah, one. Okay. Yeah. No, I see what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. We move to the item on the agenda, consideration of the Kaipara District Council Māori Ward for the 225 election. I'd like to move option B. Could you put that up on the board, please, Alana? Okay, option B agrees to disestablish its Māori ward, Te Moananui Owa Kaipara, and undertakes a shortened representation review for at least the 225 triennial elections. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Howard, thank you. Reporting on this item, we have C.E. Maris.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, I just want to acknowledge that Dale Soski, our electoral officer, in the room as well, and online we have our legal representative, Warren Bangma, too. I'll just take a couple of minutes to intro this item for you and take you on a little bit of a journey here. As you are well aware, this meeting is to determine whether to retain or disestablish the Kaipara Māori ward, Te Moananui o Kaipara, for the 25 and 28 elections. Legislation passed last week directed that all councils that established Māori wards since 2020 without a poll need to make a decision to retain or disestablish their ward, and it needs to be made by the 6th of September this year. But they're far away. So there are clearly and obviously two paths to retain or disestablish. I should also note at this juncture that it doesn't have any effect on the Māori ward up until the next election, and the incumbent remains, because I know there's some commentary around that. So if I can just turn to retaining as an option. If council decides to retain the ward today, it would need to conduct a poll at the local government elections next October on whether the Māori ward should be confirmed, and if so, it would be in place for the 2028 and 2031 elections. Essentially, the outcome of this would be that the Kaipara Māori ward would remain in place for the next triennium from 25 to 28, and then the results of the poll would apply from the 2028 election. The cost of this option of doing a poll at the election next year would be approximately $5,000, as stated in the staff report. If I can just turn to the other option here, and that's to disestablish, which has been moved and seconded and is on the table at the moment. If council decides to disestablish the ward today, a representation review, and for those that don't know what a representation review is, it looks at your communities of interest, it looks at your number of elected members and your ward boundaries, the formula that it must fit within to meet statutory requirements. So this must be started with the initial proposal needing to be agreed by council on the 13th of September. So that is a week, obviously, after the 6th of September. For public, now that is for public consultation. It is this timing that has created the need for this extraordinary meeting today. If council decides to disestablish the ward, it needs sufficient time to work through the representation review process and get an agreed position that the council is happy with to consult the public. In our last two representation reviews, there were at least 3 to 4 briefings needed with the council to do this, followed by 2 formal council meetings. The process took anywhere from 4 to 6 months. Essentially, this is why it's on the table today, as effectively 4 to 5 weeks to do that if council disestablishes the Māori ward. Representation review is approximately $25,000. Now, community views. It's really important to talk about this right now. In 2020, the Kaipara District Council implemented its Māori ward. Consultation was not required with the community as permitted by the legislation at the time. Council also considered that the decision to implement the Māori ward was not a significant decision under the council's significance and engagement policy at the time. Nothing has changed in that regard. Iwi, however, were consulted and presented to that meeting and agreed that a Māori ward was the preferred option. In early 2021, you've heard today, a demand for a poll was received by council from the community. It was not able to be actioned as the right to demand a poll was removed from the legislation time. The demand had reached more than the 5% of electors threshold that is needed to create a valid demand. This gives you a view of the community, the broader community in 2020. Council is not required to consult on this decision, as the government has simply reversed what the previous government put in place with the same requirements. Given the statutory timeframes involved, which I've just outlined, it is simply not possible to consult with the public on this decision. However, council is not required under the legislation to use the special consultative procedures. However, it needs to take into account Part 6, I believe, of the Local Government Act.
Section 81.
Part 6 of this Local Government Act to understand the known community views prior to you making this decision. It is important to acknowledge in Section 78 of the Local Government Act, those views and preferences of persons likely to be affected by or have an interest in the matter should be taken into consideration. Māori views are therefore important, given the decision ahead of you is related to a Māori ward. You have heard a cross-section of some of the community views in public forum today. Obviously, you can tell from our attendance outside the meeting room today, there are some significant views already. I am also aware of an online petition that was started last week seeking council to retain the Māori ward. Council needs to be cautious as to its accuracy, as I cannot judge that at the moment. However, the organiser has advised that it now has 800 signatures in support of the Māori ward. I mention this today in the interests of fairness as a petition organiser contacted our council staff and does not have sufficient time to present it to council when you're making a decision today at an extraordinary meeting. We have received 3 letters from our iwi, and I have tabled them today at the meeting. They will form part of the formal minutes of the meeting, and I have distributed those letters to elected members ahead of this meeting as well. Okay, we're nearly there. Next steps. Option 1, obviously, retain the Māori ward. We will prepare for a poll at the next elections. Option 2, which is on the table at the moment, disestablish the Māori ward. We have prepared an initial item at the council briefing today, and that item is entirely dependent on the decision you make at this extraordinary meeting first. We have indicated a schedule for the possible representation review. That is in the report as well. So, council, we're in your hands. What you decide today will determine the next steps for staff perspective. I'm just going to ask Dale to fill anything in before questions.
Sure.
So, can I just allow Dale to...
I have questions after Dale's presented. Thank you.
Dale, do you have anything to add to that?
Just if we hold a poll in 2025, as Jason has said, outcome.
Yes, you can't hear.
If council retains Māori wards and we hold a poll in 2025, as Jason, as the chief executive has said, the outcome is applicable for 2028 and 2031. So the council cannot consider Māori wards until 2032. So it's quite a while away for the 2034 elections. If council agrees to disestablish Māori wards, then that decision applies for the 2025 and 2028 elections, and council can then next consider Māori wards in 2029 for the 2031 elections. That's the only point of clarification.
Thank you, Dale.
Paniora, you have a question?
Pātai Taku, in your analysis, why did you leave off the fact that Kaipara District Council has been served with a High Court proceeding in terms of the judicial review? I'm just wondering why that's been left off your summation of the views of the community, and furthermore that the Kaipara District Council has been threatened with an injunction in the High Court if this decision goes ahead today, given that none of the community or iwi or hapu have been consulted.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Paniora. We've received a notice of proceeding and a statement of claim. Received something like 15 minutes prior to this meeting. I have had a discussion with our legal advisors. There is no interim relief requested by this. So I've taken legal advice and there's nothing to stop council from making a decision today.
What if it's a white supremacist system?
You be quiet, please, in the... Please be quiet in the public gallery.
Don't you later?
Okay, any other questions?
A question following on from that.
Councillor Paniora, you have another question.
So the fact that there's now High Court proceedings on foot and a threat of an injunction, which the councils now are well aware of, does the fact that the ratepayers will be paying for the defence of the High Court challenge, will that be taken into account? And will the fact that the council is now on notice that the decision to be made shortly is illegal, has that been taken into account, that there'll be costs in favour of the applicant to this proceeding, which could be in the range of $25,000 to $50,000 on top of the $25,000 representation review.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So as I said before, there's been no interim relief requested by this notice of proceeding or statement of claim. There is currently no injunction on the table here. Look, the reality is.
Can you let him complete his answer, please? Councillor Penalties, please be quiet and let
The post-decision today.
complete his answer, thank you.
I've read the proceedings. The interim relief is to postpone the decision today.
I've outlined the legal advice that I've received, Councillor Paniora. Now, the reality is when councils make decisions, it is always open to judicial review and open to legal proceedings. That should not preclude the council from making a decision.
But the decision is illegal if you haven't consulted per section 81 of the local.
Oh, you're trying to predetermine what you think should happen in a legal proceeding.
Yeah.
So, Councillor, C.E. Maris has said that we can continue with the vote, and that's what we will do. Councillor Naya.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a clarification to Dale. The second option says a representation review is to be done. If you don't do it, when it was due, when the last one was done and when the next one we have to do anyway.
It's every 6 years. You must do one. You can do one after.
If we don't do it, when we have to do it.
Yes, after, so it's another 3 years, we have to do one. Yep. Because it's a 6-year period.
Yes, so the last one was done in 2020?
For the Māori wards, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to the mover of the motion, which is myself. Thank you. Stand down.
I would like to move an amendment.
Councillor Paniora wishes to move an amendment. For amendment.
The amendment is to postpone the decision until Māori, iwi and hapu have been consulted as per the obligations under section 81 of the Local Government Act.
My understanding, Councillor Paniora, C.E. Maris will confirm that is that we have a.
Points of order, I'm in the middle of a.
No, it's not, please.
Seconder, points of order.
Councillor, I'd like to get C.E. Maris to clarify that before you continue.
Through you, Mr Mayor, if I could get just the whole motion out so I can respond in full.
You want the whole motion out? Okay.
So I can understand what has been amended here. That would be fine. You read it out again, please.
That the decision be postponed until iwi and hapu have been consulted as per legal obligation under section 81 of the Local Government Act.
Okay. Are you okay if I respond to that?
Yeah.
I have outlined to the council why there is a need for urgency here. If this amendment is permitted and goes through, we would need to seriously consider our ability to meet our statutory timeframe. However, I think, Mr Mayor, it is up to the council to decide to do this or not. So my suggestion, Mr Mayor, is that you call for a seconder.
I have a seconder.
Can I ask a question?
Not until the.
No, okay. All right. We have that on the table from Councillor Paniora. Can I have a seconder, please?
Thank you.
Councillor Erin Wilson-Collins. Okay.
So, Mr Mayor, you've got an amendment on the table. It might be asking for questions first before you hand to the mover and seconder.
Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. C. Maris has given us specific details here. Can you just elaborate a little more on the implications of adopting this amendment in terms of those statutory requirements that we must meet in the timelines?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I think it's pretty clear. So I've outlined why we're doing this meeting quite quickly and the need to, if we decide, council decides to disestablish the board today, we need to publicly notify the initial proposal on the 13th of September. That will take quite some time to work through with the council, and we need the time to be able to do so. If this amendment is passed, we will then need to work very quickly with iwi and hapu and Māori and consult as best as we can in a limited time frame that would then allow a decision to be made and then the representation review process to be run if the decision is to disestablish. So I'm not going to say it's impossible, but say it's going to be extremely hard to do so.
Councillor Panayoru, you have one question?
So just to be clear, so 13th of September is the deadline to have, so approximately just over a month from now is the deadline to disestablish, so there's still more months. No, but that, sorry, just yes, it's a yes or no question. So
I'm going to correct you.
13th of September is the statutory timeline to disestablish, decide to disestablish the Māori ward.
The correct answer is 4th of September is the time frame where you must disestablish or retain. Make that
Okay, so
by
4th of September.
13th of September is when you have to.
Sorry.
6th of September.
Okay, so it's the sixth. So the statutory deadline is the 6th of September.
6th, yes.
Thank you. So the 6th of September.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes.
Councillor Howard, follow.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So following on that, do we need, if we follow with this, do we need to still go through, or can we still go through another extraordinary meeting? Make the decisions that we have on the table now, following.
Mr Mayor, yes, we would have to work out a pretty tight schedule to do so. And then the members will need to commit to those meetings and briefings. And I'd have to engage, obviously, electoral officer if the decision is made to disestablish to ensure that they're available as well.
Jason,
Councillor, no, thank you. Councillor Nair. I have not got you in the line to speak. Councillor Nair was next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question was more directed to Dale or to you, whosoever knows the law better. So my question is more on legislation change. If he has provided such a tight timeline, Mr. Brown, has he also clarified the criteria, if any, for EV consultation between this time frame? Because in terms of the two options, he has given one option to disestablish. So what are the directions under the Act for consultation, if there are any?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the report and the guidelines that provided by the Local Government Commission advise that. No, is left that up to council. The only thing that the legislation states is that you cannot use the special consultative procedures for the formal consultation process with the Māori.
They have a
community.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Panayoru.
second clarification, I just checked the Act and it says that you can extend until the 13th of September, the statutory deadline. Is that correct?
I could not tell you, Councillor Paniora. It would be, and Warren may be able to tell me, bear with me for a second. That does not change the fact that we still would have to do an initial proposal by the 13th.
That's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking about this.
Mr Bangmar,
Fine.
are we able to extend the disestablishment retained decision until the 13th of September? That's the question.
Right, Sarah, in response to that is not provided for in the legislation. If I understand the question correctly, there are timeframes that have been mandated here by Parliament, as you've outlined in your report. Sarah, just one point of clarification, just so the record is clear. In relation to the special consultative procedure, Sir, I think you said earlier that under the legislation that cannot be used the precise wording in the legislation is it is not required to be used, as you've specified in the officer report, sir.
Thank you very much.
One final question.
Oh, let's put it to them.
One final question. Would it not be cheaper for the council to stop now and consult than to land in court with an injunction now that it's on notice? Would it not be cheaper for our ratepayers who we're responsible for fiscal responsibility to represent, for us to postpone the decision today, given there's a High Court and an injunction tomorrow, which will stop the representation review in its tracks anyway? Is it not cheaper for us to defer the decision now until we have been consulted to instead continue? And there's $50,000 on top of the 25,000 if this council goes ahead today. Just bear that in mind. There's a High Court proceeding on foot right now.
Councillor Maris, would like to respond.
There are various possible outcomes, but yes, there is a possibility that it could cost council more.
Okay. So, Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So following from that assertion, or assumption.
It's not an assertion, we were seeking.
Have had your say, Councillor Howard.
Are we comfortable that the proposed consultation with iwi, if this happens under this motion, would negate the suggestion of legal action because of no consultation? Is it?
Will you please be quiet? I haven't asked you to speak.
So I'm clarifying. So the threat of legal action would be withdrawn. We consult with iwi, even in this short period of time.
I can't, so through Mr. Mayor, I can't speak on behalf of the people taking legal action to it.
Yeah.
It is up to them.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I think we'll go to the mover's statement. Councillor Paniora.
Thank you. So, as I understand it, the High Court proceedings, which are on foot and have been served on the council, they're not a mere assumption. This is the reality of the situation, will be withdrawn if iwi are consulted before this decision is made. So the amendment will save the council $50,000 in legal fees, both to defend it and to have to pay the applicants because they'll be successful, on top of the $25,000 that the ratepayers will be paying towards the representation review. The proceedings will be withdrawn. Oh, so that's a no? Okay, cool. That's all I have to say.
Councillor Aaron Wilson-Gines.
Thank you. Yeah, so please excuse if my voice isn't perfect and if I start coughing halfway through what I have to say, covering from some illness. I support this motion to consult for our iwi. We've heard from some very eloquent speakers this morning, and I think it's quite evident that making decisions about certain sectors of our community without consultation with them is actually detrimental to our relationships with them. This isn't the first time that we've failed to consult with iwi in the decisions that we make around this council table with this council. And as we can tell, and as we are hearing, I think I've had enough. I think it's unfair and it's unjust that we continue to make decisions that remove any, what I've been calling tokenism, Māoridom, as part of this council anyway. We're removing all as we've been proceeding through the years of this council. We took away karakia. We removed te reo from all our documents. We argued last week for almost an hour about 2 te reo words in the name of a reserve. It's just untenable now. And here we are at the junction of making a decision about whether we truly value our relationship with our local iwi and hapu, whether we truly value our relationship with our local Māori. And here's the decision in front of us. And here's a chance for us to consult with those that it affects. It is not just Māori that are actually asking us to have Māori wards. It is not just Māori who are asking us to live in a modern bicultural society. It is not just Māori who are asking us to be fair and just in these decisions. Yet let's consult with Māori, because at the end of the day, it's their values that matter most in this decision. Kia ora.
Okay, any other elected members wish to speak? Councillor Vincent, followed by Councillor Howard.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I am in support of consultation, which is not tokenistic. And for that reason, I would oppose this amendment. I'd much rather favour an alternative primary motion where we allow more breathing space, meaningful consultation through the process that we'll be heading towards a referendum on in the next term. So for that reason, I'm going to oppose this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that, one can have sympathy with the diabolically short timeline that we have to work with to allow any real form of consultation. I agree that with Councillor Vincent, we don't want to make this so-called tokenist. I would certainly favour meaningful consultation with iwi. But, I think there again, and I'm going to say that we're singling out one group of community. And, there is a lot more to this. There is a lot more groups in our community that may want to say that actually by this won't get a say. So, some of us have actually gone out and done some work and consulted with the range of our constituency that we can. So that's preparedness. That is getting on and doing what we can ourselves in a period of time. So, I do have, and I would welcome the opportunity to discuss with iwi, but I just wonder, are we going to be able to do it properly? If we can, I'd be happy. But if we can't, I'm with Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. Councillor Ashnair. Did you have?
No, I want to.
Want to say something? There you go.
Finished.
Yeah.
Finished, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, consultation is a good idea if it can be done within time limit. So I'm in line with the views expressed, but in saying that, there's a petition going on as well, as I was told. And the presenter today, the electoral officer told us that there was a petition, and presenter Frank Newman also mentioned about a petition which was denied because of the law change. And this is another law change which will deny the same thing by the looks of it. So I'm just wondering, within this time frame, maybe it's not possible. So I will be opposing if it's not possible.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay. We'll move to the mover's right of reply.
Yeah, sorry, I just want.
There's no right of reply. Okay. That's the standing orders dictate that there is no right of reply. Is that correct? I'm sorry, there is no right of reply.
The advice we've received is wrong. We have until the 13th.
We'll move to the vote. The vote by the division.
The council.
Point of order, you need to.
That's your point of order.
Point of order is that the local commission report sets out to all of the councillors, paragraph 80 of the Local Government Act, that legal advice is wrong. It says paragraph 80. the extension of the deadline for resolution of an initial proposal to 13th September 2024 is not dependent on a local authority affirming its Māori ward constituencies, resolving to disestablish its Māori ward constituencies, or rescinding its decision to establish them. So we have until the 13th.
Said what the point of order is, councillor.
Order is misinformation.
From the legal advisor, it's incorrect legal advice.
How would we know? It's a lawyer. Okay, point of order, I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to move to the vote. And we'll do the vote by division, thank you, Alana. I'm not going to muck around with having someone ask for one after we've had our hands.
For clarity, Mr Mayor, before Alana calls the division, this is on the amendment that's on the table on the screen in front of you.
Councillor Howard.
What? Sorry, can you say that louder? For.
Councillor Lambert.
Against.
Jimmy Larson.
Against.
Councillor Nanson.
Against.
Councillor Nair.
For.
Councillor Keniora. Councillor Vincent.
Against.
Councillor Williams. Against. Councillor Wilson-Collins. For. Chair Houston.
Against. Motion defeated. We'll go back to my motion.
Brilliant, Mr Mayor. So the amendment was not carried, failed. You're back to a substantive motion, which you moved, and councillor Howard seconded.
Okay. So we've had questions on that item as well. Okay. I will talk to that. Got some notes here. Just want to give some background on my involvement with the Maori ward. Our community were denied their voice and opinion when I presented the petition requesting a referendum in the summer of 2021, with the highest petition numbers in the north of 8.8%, significantly higher than the 5% required referenda. We had 2,202 people. We had a strong response. I think one of our speakers this morning, Frank Newman or John Bain, pointed out that was almost 1 in 5. However, retrospective legislation by Nanaia Mahuta would stripped the right for our citizens to vote on how we wish to run our democracy here. I reject the notion that Maori have a designated ward to ensure representation at the table. I don't believe they need that. The irony of a Maori ward being introduced in the Kaipara is Maori had a better representation in the 2019-22 council. They had 22% of representatives, well above the 15% of eligible voters that Maori make up in the district. So the irony is that with this Maori ward, we have 1 of 10, which is actually half the representation we had in the previous council. When canvassing for the mayoralty, I clearly stated in my 150-word statement each voter received with their voting forms, and I quote, "As a member of Democracy Northland, I sponsored and presented to Kaipara District Council the petition objecting to the undemocratic introduction of a race-based ward. I received an overwhelming vote, 1,592 ahead of my nearest competitor of 6 who were standing for the ward." It's a strong.
Stop, it's just outrageous.
Can the meeting, and I'm going to complete my move as statement. And that is that I believe the vote in the previous election established quite strongly that there was no appetite for a Maori ward.
1,200 out of 26,000.
I will not attempt to speak for other councils, because each has its own unique circumstances, but I believe the Maori ward here in the Kaipara has not to date justified its establishment, and the division it brings today is testament to that.
Whatever.
Thank you. Can I have?
That's on you.
Seconder, please, councillor Howard.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you don't mind, I would like to stand and present. Paul. Welcome all. In 21 months of local government, I think this is really, from the heart, the hardest decision that I've come across. I've searched my soul for my response, because in reality, there are many good pros and cons to both options. Searching my soul, I've gone back a long way. I grew up in Invercargill, yep, the Southlander, up here. I'm the eldest of four. Mum and Dad had little, but they did always provide us with food, with clothing, and modest holidays, even though for a good period of time we didn't even have a car. They left me with two key benchmarks upon which my life has developed. One was always to be polite and talk to people, i.e. communicate. You learn that way, was a resonating speech or a resonating comment that I heard from my father. Two, develop your own pathway to achievement, to be what you want to be, where you want to go. Study hard, be positive in your decisions, and have determination to achieve your goals. In the 13 years following the family moving from Invercargill, I completed school, I got a good job, met my future wife. She's still my wife for 51 years. But at the time, when all of our friends were going overseas, we determined that we would get a house and set a base for us and our future. We started with basically nothing. I am having my speech, thank you. Within the 13 years, I found my industry.
Point of order, yeah. Okay, point of order.
Relevant.
No, I'm not, sorry, I think it is relevant. He's backgrounding his.
My seconder's comments. I'll get, sorry. Because this is about foundation. This is about base. In that 13 years, I found myself in an industry that I knew little about, other than some study I'd done in night school. It was more me than was accounting. It suited my personality, so I took up the option to join the advertising industry. That industry prefaced an item that was to guide my further learning. It's called the pitch. The pitch, our whole being in the industry for sustainability, learning and progress and achievement. So that is key. It created highs and lows, introduced new talent, and meant working hard on maintaining existing relationships. The key, you had to be a team. Very clear goals, everyone equal in their ability to contribute to the successful collective inputs and outputs from within the tent. So move forward to today, and I apologise, some of this has been already raised, but I look at the dynamic changes in our own parliament. Oh, it's the two-party structure, thankfully. I note some interesting changes that reflect my view of working inside the tent. Today, we have many parties in Parliament, but we also have a total of 33 Maori members in total. That's 27% against the benchmark 17%. Take out those representing the seats which have been in place since 1867. There are now 7 Maori seats, and we still have 21 or 22% representation. I think that's brilliant. It's really good, and it's a great achievement, and many are very good MPs. Despite having different views, they are all working from inside the tent to make New Zealand a better place through their contribution. Kaipara District had 2 Maoris in the last council, both through general ward. Inside the tent. When in 2021 it was decreed high that we would have a Maori ward without public consultation, we ended up with a high-profile election. I am pleased to have been part of the process that generated a 51% turnout in our ward. My role did exactly the same. On a relative scale nationwide, that was an emphatic endorsement of the There was a lot of communication.
He's over time.
Involved in achieving that result. And Mary Ward, Te Moana Nui o Kaipara. Excuse me, I've been a point of order here. What is your point of order?
Overtime.
He's well over 5 minutes.
He's only making up for the time we took with the last point of order, and I'm the chair. You can finish. Thank you. Thank you. I've just got a little bit to do. I said our Mary Ward returned a 29% turnout. One could easily reflect on whether or not that suggests the majority of those registered on the Maori roll were really not interested in supporting the concept of their own ward. What is your... So today's decision, can I ask you, what is your point of order?
Misrepresentation of the thoughts of Māori people. His statement is...
Allowed to give its opinion, carry on, thank you.
No, he's not.
So to today's... I'm the chair of this meeting, please be quiet, I'm asking to continue. Learning, long life learnings, and being confident in my decisions and communicating effectively. I've always believed New Zealand is one country where we all have equal opportunity to contribute. On communication, I totally agree on the need to communicate with our stakeholders, our community. Their contribution is critical, so I have done that as best I can in recent days. I firmly believe that anyone of any culture can best contribute in a collective manner from inside the tent. Sure as hell, if I'm around after next election, I will do all in my power to encourage and support that contribution. I would, and I have, worked well and will any day with Reno and Snow and their teams on the project that move our district ahead. So, my decision will be governed by my endearing guidance from my dearly departed parents, belief in all the benefits that accrue from the principal learnings of the pitch. And lastly, by listening to the views of those who ultimately hold the key to my tenure in a local government position, which I have loved thus far. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, any other elected members wish to speak?
I will.
Councillor Naya.
Thank you. I will also use this better idea, I think. I'm not getting Well, I chose to migrate to New Zealand in 2001 for Canada, as it promised better potential for growth, which is still struggling to achieve. Looking back, I find a nation with petty vested interest, regional, east and west, ideological, race, genealogy, which has only stunted the growth of this beautiful end of the world. National politics has played this role in glorifying the divide. And we are in a coalition government which has given a wake-up call to society to work together for betterment of the people. In that context, Maori wards has become a political football, which have been brought in and out at will by successive central governments. various local governments, including us councillors, have played its part in further extending the game of this political football depending on the ideology of various representatives and their leanings. I, as your elected member, would like to urge other members not to extend this debate issue any further and leave it to the central government, which represents the whole country. We in local government should focus on the welfare of all of our constituents and provide them with an efficient service that they need direly at an affordable cost. Most of our time at the council has been spent so far on minor issues which should be relegated to the past. I stood for council, which stands for equality for all, and still believes that should be the case going forward. I believe all races have the capacity and capabilities to prosper to the best of their ability on a common ground. So I will be actually favouring what is being. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nair. Can I have someone else, Councillor Vincent?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering if I could put in a request for Billy name as a soundtrack while I speak. Okay, what I want to say is, starting from now, we live in times of divisive politics internationally, nationally and locally. This means more power to the powerful, greater disadvantage to the disadvantaged. So how can a separate Maori ward be more inclusive? Question. I'll tell you my view. The history of the Kaipara District Council is that over its 10 or so terms, with an average of 9 elected members per term, there have been just 2 elected members who identify as Maori. Maori participation in local government to date has been poor. Not all adult Maori in this district have registered to vote, and the numbers voting are proportionately lower as well. No doubt there are multiple reasons for that, including that they see local government as not for them. Nominated Maori ward is helping the Maori community to engage. Many think of local government with the 3 R's, rubbish, rodeo and rates. There might be a 4th. I'm sure Taika Waititi misspoke when he said that New Zealand is racist as, I think what he meant to say was that New Zealand is racist as a duck. You know, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. I invite my colleagues to take a step back from themselves and then reflect on what they see. A Maori ward is a step towards inclusion rather than division. There is this thing called the tyranny of the majority. I know about this. I experience it regularly. It has been defined as an inherent weakness to majority rule in which the majority of an electorate pursues exclusively its own objectives at the expense of those of the minority factions. An inclusive council would take steps to ensure that the voices of the minority are heard and taken into account. Treating everyone the same does not equate to treating everyone equally, except that there is something very consistent about everyone on the general roll voting for general candidates and people on the Maori roll voting for Maori candidates. A further point, the Mayor and Deputy Mayor will acknowledge that it is important to save expense wherever possible, just as they were concerned to overturn a recent decision relating to the disposal of the former Raupo Drainage Board house for the sake of saving council $25,000 per year. The unbudgeted greater cost of a representation review over a referendum should weigh heavily with them. And I haven't even spoken about local government's statutory obligations to Maori or connections to Tiriti in all this, as I'm sure others will, if they haven't already. After a lot of hard thinking, the solution is in sight. This insight finally came to me late last night. Central government has dumped on us big time, setting extremely difficult deadlines for us to comply with, resulting in a lot of angst in the community. That was rather prescient. Why are we making it so hard on ourselves? If we go down this cancel path, we'll lend weight to perceptions about this council's unwillingness to engage with our communities. Said about that, both from today's meeting and the future shortened representation review. Such things carried out with great haste can result in unforeseen, unintended consequences. Between now and Christmas, we should be focusing on developing our draft annual plan and getting the proposed district plan publicly notified, not a truncated representation review. So we need to take the continue option, and we will all, including our citizens, get a chance to draw breath and have a think. I therefore propose an amendment to the motion.
Mr. Mayor, standing orders, if you've spoken to the motion, you can't move an amendment.
When I was speaking, as that was an introduction to my amendment to the motion.
That is your call, Mr. Mayor.
No, I don't think so. I'm sorry.
Someone else might pick up the option. Thank you.
Any other elected members wish to speak?
I'll speak.
No, you have the mover's right of reply. Any other elected members? My apologies. My apologies, it's already a long day. Councillor Paniora.
Thank you through the chair. I would urge the council to carry out its statutory obligations under section 81 of the Local Government Act to speak to Māori, mana whenua, hapu and iwi. Thank you.
Any other elected members wish to speak? Councillor Erin Wilson-Collins.
Make a process question, if I can. CE Maris. There's nobody left, is there, who can move an amendment? Sorry, and because I spoke, as I seconded the first amendment, I can't move another amendment.
Correct.
Is that correct?
There are 3 elected members. Amendment or second amendment.
Oh.
He's already spoken.
Do you wish to speak?
I would like to speak. Thank you very much. Bear with my bark. My bite is worse than my bark, believe me. So gosh, where do we even start here? I would like to thank all the speakers that came and spoke this morning from both viewpoints. I appreciate hearing what you have to say, and I appreciate you coming in and sharing your viewpoint with us. All were very, very good speakers. Even the lady, I can't see her now, she even got her point across, our last speaker. She was very nervous, bless. I unfortunately just want to clear up or debate some of these things that were raised this morning. It keeps being raised that we had 2 Māori elected members in our last term, which is correct. I think the misunderstanding here is that having someone of Māori descent be on council is very different to someone having a mandate to represent Māori on council. So the Māori ward itself, anyone can run in that ward. They don't have to be Māori. But the point of the ward, just as I stand for the wider ward and represent the rural and Dargaville communities of this district, the point of the Māori ward is that the person elected represents a Māori view, Te Ao Māori at the table. In November 2020, I was part of the vote and I voted for establishing Māori wards. And that was one of the proudest days that I've had on council. I stand by that decision today, and I will not be agreeing with disestablishing the Māori wards. Back then, as I explained, and I'll re-explain now, I don't represent iwi, I have no relationship with iwi. I don't represent Democracy Northland, I have no relationship with them. But this seems to have become a Democracy Northland versus iwi issue. I represent a different part of the community and I talk to a different part of the community. It is a Pakeha community, it is a Tauiwi community. It is a community that is still telling me the value of Māori wards, and I stand by that. The mandate to actually be able to speak for Māori, who are the Indigenous people of this country, and be able to uphold the rights of Te Tiri o Waitangi is vital. Being combative and exclusionary is not helping matters. This has been such a journey and we've still got more than a year to go before the elections. What else can we do? How else can we destroy our relationship with our iwi?
I also find it really interesting this morning to hear from our fellow elected members after our Māori ward councillor speaking on behalf with a mandate for Māori to try and move an amendment, then tell us that that's not required. When that is, again, I think it illustrates highly the issue that we have of non-Māori trying to speak for Māori in local government. We established Māori wards to ensure we had a Māori voice at the table. And that's what we've had this term. And I have witnessed my fellow elected members thank Councillor Paniora for contributions she has made, for insight she has provided, and education she has actually given us in council meetings where she has been able to provide the viewpoint that we don't know. Because how can a whole bunch of non-Māori speak for Māori and their issues? How can we have, because I'm one of them, how can I have the right insight? I can't and I don't. I was even approached by a former Hobson County councillor who was a councillor, you know, back in the day, probably before I was even born. And he explained to me how vital it was, even back then, with 12, and I will quote him, 12 Pākehā men around a table and one Pākehā CE. He realised back then how vital it was to have a Māori at the table and understand the value of the input of a third of our constituency. And he said to me, I really hope you're not disestablishing the wards on Wednesday. And I said, well, honey, read the papers. Already been printed. And he was really sad about that. He's not the only one. I just speak of one interaction I have had, of many in our constituency. The insinuation that having a Māori ward means that we are not acting together and we are not working towards the same goal is unbelievable. Māori wards are not the first ward established to provide for a minority. In our last representation review, we lost our Dargaville ward. We got merged into a wider ward. But before that, we had purposeful rural wards, as was raised this morning, to make sure that we had a rural voice at the table. If we're going to disestablish Māori wards, are we going to disestablish all our wards? Because that's the purpose of them. All wards are put in place to give a minority a view at the table. We've got different communities of interest and Māori is one of them. And oh my God, someone read a history book, because no, Māori are not at the table equally, especially in local government, especially in the Kaipara. And Māori have the right to have their voice at the table. It is about a mandate, it is about a representation. It's not about having people on the council of Māori descent, it's having people on the council who have the mandate to speak for Māori, learn about Te Ao Māori and understand what that world is, so you understand why this is so important to them. Now, we may not be able to change this decision today, but we can change who sits around this table October 2025.
Amen.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Lambert, you have your hand up there on the screen.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to be very, very brief. Prior to being elected onto the council, I gave submissions as to the numbers of councillors and the need for a review and the fact that we need to reduce our council elected member numbers. It's very unusual for a politician of any sort as being a turkey to vote for an early Christmas. I do believe that we need to reduce our numbers, and I've always stood by that. I've stood by it before I become elected member, and I've steadfast stood by that all the way through. I'm not going to change my mind today. This is a chance to have a review. We have far too many councillors for the district that we have. We need to make it lean. We need to make sure that there are better quality councillors that have a chance to run where they're not being stifled by business or work constraints. Reducing the councillors means that they can get a bigger remuneration and they can actually get somebody in here that can make the right decisions. The Kaipara District Council has the highest growth of any other council in the country. And it's because of that, every opportunity that I believe that we have a review has got to be taken. It's got nothing to do with the Maori wards for me. It's got to do with another review, and I'm going to take this opportunity to use that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lambeth. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Larson.
Thank you, Your Worship. A lot of what I might have said has kind of already been covered today, but yeah, I was part. Maori ward was first mooted, and I tried to push for consultation with the whole community at that time, and that wasn't found to be in favour, which was a democratic decision of the council at the time. And so the decision that's being put forward in this motion today is to revert to the status quo that was denied through the legislation of the previous government. But I think there's a bigger issue for us today, and it's an issue for our district going forward, and it's an issue for our whole country. How do we want to live? Don't think about today or tomorrow. Think about in 20 or 30 years' time. Do we want to be living in a modern, liberal, ethnic, democratic society? Or do we want to devolve into the demonstration we've seen today of a total disruption of civil democracy towards what looks like a taste of tribal rule? And so I would say to you...
Order.
What is your point of order?
Language.
Councillor Larson is entitled to his opinion. Declined. Carry on.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I've looked quite closely at this issue as we've come into this debate, and I've tried to think of what are the legal or ethical reasons why we want to divide our district or our country on the basis of who some people's ancestors were. And as you look into history, it's very difficult to find a good reason for that. Where it's been done all around the world, it's resulted in civil unrest and all sorts of humanitarian atrocities, including genocide. And
Points of order relevance.
His argument is relevant. He's talking about our future under we decide here.
Today,
Please be quiet.
atrocities overseas.
Nothing wrong with talking about the general scene now. Please be quiet and let him have his word. I've let everybody have a good run today, including you. So carry on, please, Councillor Larson.
Thank you, Your Worship. And, you know, I come back to the mentions that have been made of our purpose in local government. And if you look at the declaration that everyone read out and signed when they came into council, we all said that we would work in the best interests of the whole district and that we would undertake our duties under all acts of parliament. And when you go to some of our fundamental documents like the Bill of Rights Act and the Human Rights Act, under the Human Rights Act, a prohibited ground of discrimination is on the basis of race or ethnic background. And so we come around to a place of where are we going to go as a district? Do we want to be united and inclusive going forward, or do we want this division? And I, for one, would like to see us going ahead as a united district and a united country working together. In fact, in my research, I had a look at what has been considered to be a bit contentious, where the former national government signed the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, and I'll quote to you from that. Even that document states that all doctrines, policies and practices based on or advocating superiority of peoples or individuals on the basis of national origin, racial, religious, ethnic or cultural differences are racist, scientifically false, legally invalid, morally condemnable and socially unjust. So I put it to you, Your Worship, we should move ahead and vote for equality in our society. Let's all work together in a positive way in this district. Let's get the conversations going between all of us. Make this a great place for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Williams.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all of the presenters here today. You know, we've heard everything that's been said. We've heard the point of views around this table as well in regard to this issue that we're debating today. I had hoped that there would have been another way. The government would have allowed us to work towards talking to our communities before even we got to this point. And having to decide to either disestablish or have an election. And really
Can you be quiet, please? Carry on.
Have the referendum then. But my point in all of this is that within all of this, I haven't had time to hear from the broader community. You know, there's been yes, but you know, there's 16,000 plus people in this district. So I am not voting in this. No, I am abstaining from voting on this matter.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, I get the right of reply. Is that correct? At that point.
If there's no other members that wish to speak.
Oh, Manderson hasn't spoken.
He doesn't. Look, I am the chair of this meeting. If a elected member does not wish to speak, they are entirely within their rights. Now, I will make a statement.
He isn't. Would you like to make a statement? Excuse me.
Yeah, ask the
Your function to decide when I can speak.
So you do know where you are.
In contempt again, please don't try and control the meeting. I am chairing the meeting. I am doing what I need to do. If people want to speak or not speak, that is entirely up to them. Now, I'm going to make my closing statement before we put it to the vote. Personally, I've never believed in division by race and forming voting blocks based on race. I feel it is condescending to Maori that somehow they are not good enough to be elected without a ward to guarantee this. I strongly believe all elections should be contested by any member of our community, and there is ample opportunity for all cultures to participate in that process. If you are the best candidate, no matter who your ancestors are, you will be elected. This is well proven in the history of our nation's local and central government mix. To name a few, Mayor Tapsell from Rotorua, Mayor Whanau from Wellington, Mayor Mako Tepnia from Far North District Council, all Maori mayors. We have famous politicians, Winston Peters, Shane Jones and David Seymour, leaders of our coalition government. Kind of harks back to what Martin Luther King said about wanting our children to one day live in a nation where they would not be judged by the colour of their skin, but by the content of their character. And I think we live in a society right now where we actually value that. Kaipara District Council is complying fully with the treaty obligations imposed by Section 4 of the Local Government Act in respect of decision-making processes and its obligations under the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act. This Bill of Rights Act also protects the tyranny of the majority, in my opinion. We facilitate participation by Maori in local decision-making processes. However, democratic decision-making entails equal rights for all communities and people of the district. Any preferential treatment of any race or any other group would infringe those provisions. We are elected to represent the various communities of our district equally without fear or favour. Democratic decision-making means dealing with the people and the communities of the district on an equal basis without preferential treatment. The establishment and need of Maori wards relies on a false narrative. That narrative preaches that Maori have no voice, are unfairly disadvantaged, are oppressed, suffer the continual effects of colonisation, systemic racism and victimhood. Those of us who are not blessed with Maori ancestry should feel guilty for past misdeeds of our ancestors. I am classed as a product of white privilege, I guess. This narrative is false, and most Kiwis, no matter their culture, including Maori, see this as false. That's why very few vote in the Maori ward for the likes of the Tea Party Maori. This country needs to respect and celebrate all cultures. We need to maintain our wonderful democracy and not slide down the path to an ethno-state. Today is not about bowing before intimidation by those who support this slippery slope. Deserve all that is good about our freedom for all to participate in a well-functioning democracy. I maintain most Maori in my district do not see themselves as oppressed. They know the narrative is false. They know they will succeed if they work, send their kids to school, take up free dental care, can take their kids to the doctor whenever they need to. They know they can enjoy the benefits of a healthy lifestyle dependent on taking responsibility for themselves. If I yearn for anything associated with the past, I yearn for the strengthening of the goodwill that has always existed, that which I have experienced during my working life in the North. I want Maori and all members of the Kaipara community to excel and do well. Our communities have always worked together, played together, and loved one another. We do not need divisive wards based on race to continue to do this. We need to have respect for each other. We always cherish. Thank you. Okay. Now I'm going to put this to the vote. I'm going to do it by division. I'm not going to bother with hands. Right.
Councillor Howard. For against. Councillor Lambert.
For.
Deputy Mayor Larson.
For.
Councillor Manderson.
For.
Councillor Mayer. Councillor Peniora. Against. Councillor Vincent.
Against.
Councillor Mobley. Councillor Collins. Against. Mayor Gibson. It's been carried.
Okay, motion carried. Closing the meeting, thank you. And we will have a 30-minute break before our briefing starts.
We're all going to get